Hi guys, this is Nair from ESN. Let's talk sports. Today we're going to be looking at the weekend that we have of sports coming up, and let me tell you something, it's completely epic. It is the most exciting weekend of sports in a long time. We've got UFC 173. Before that, we've got the Champions League final between two clubs from the same city for the first time ever. Before that, we've got the most lucrative game on the planet, the sport football game on the planet, which is, of course, the Championship playoff final between QPR and Derby County. Again, that's going to be epic. Throughout the weekend, we've got the other two playoff games from League One and League Two playoff finals. For those guys, it's great getting to play at Wembley. It's going to be epic to watch that. On the Sunday, you've got the Monaco Grand Prix. You've got a Rugby Cup final and two Rugby European Cup semi-finals. I'm pretty sure. That's what it is. And on top of that, on the Monday, the sports continues because it's bank holiday. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the sports that's going to be happening this weekend. We're going to give you, well, I'm going to give you my opinions on who's going to win, who's going to lose, and then we'll talk a little bit about the transfer news. Sorry that it's a football manager background, guys. Evangeline's using the cam. Tomorrow I'll get the cam up and you can see my face for the first time, you lucky sods. Anyway, so let's get stuck into this weekend's sports. We've got UFC 173. I'm going to throw up the fight card. I'll just throw up the main events fight card. I'm not going to look at the prelims and the build-up fights. I'll look at the top three. The reason I don't want to look at the rest is because I'll be here talking all day, and I want this to be about a 20-minute video at max. So anyway, let's look at the first three fights of that. Well, the last three fights, should I say. So we've got third on the list. We've got Jake Ellenberger against Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler coming off a defeat against Hendricks for the title that GSP had relinquished. And in my opinion, he lost there because he was a bit silly. It was, going into that fifth round, it was 2 rounds each, and he was really on point. And then Hendricks took him down and just held him there for the round and won the points because he took him down and sat on top, which was a bit of a shady way to win the title. I do know that GSP wouldn't have allowed themselves to win the title like that, that's for sure. But if Hendricks is happy to win it like that, then I'm sure that's okay then. My opinion on this fight is Robbie Lawler will beat Jake Ellenberger, and he will go on to fight Hendricks again and win the title. That's my opinion. He's changed a lot. I don't know if anyone remembers him back when he was in the UFC before he returned. But he was a bit of a douche. He didn't like the media. He once fell asleep at a media conference, which is crazy to think about. A press conference, and he's lying there with his hat over his face, going to sleep. So he's changed a lot. He's grew up a lot. He's just moved his wife out to where he trains, which is a big deal. Moving your family out there. Now his family's going to be closer. He's not going to have to miss them, and I think that'll increase his game quite substantially. So for me, Robbie Lawler will win this fight and go on to win the title against Hendricks. The other big fight, and it's probably the fight I'm most looking forward to at UFC 173, is Daniel Cormier versus Dan Henderson. For me, Dan Henderson is a stick-on for the UFC Hall of Fame. He's like 41, he's a legend. His right hook or right punch, his right hand is just redonkulous. And if you get caught with it, you're sparked. That's you. You're out cold. Sparky time. You get to see that white flash in that shoe, and you wake up thinking, "What the fuck just hit me?" So that's going to be an epic fight. Daniel Cormier has never lost, and he's coming off some good wins. A lot of people are saying that he has a great chance to beat John Bones Jones. Supposedly, the winner of this fight will go on to fight John Bones Jones for the title. Hence why Dan Henderson took it only after 2 months of rest, because if you guys remember, he fought Shogun Rua over in Brazil, 2.5 months ago, and got his ass beat for 2 rounds, came out in the third round, caught Shogun Rua with a short, sharp right hook, knocked him out, and he was pretty, and that's the thing, when you fight Dan Henderson, you can win for 4.5 rounds, you can win for 4 rounds and 49 seconds. 4 rounds and 59 seconds. He catches you on the 4 rounds and the 4 minutes 59 seconds. You're out cold. Game over. And it's going to be a great fight. Cormier doesn't know how to lose. My heart is saying Dan Henderson, but we're going to go with my head and we're going to say Cormier will beat him. and go on to fight John Bones Jones for the title and get beat by John Bones Jones. Supposedly they're in talks just now for John Bones Jones to fight Gustafsson again, which is a big deal, which means Dan Henderson kind of got tricked into doing this fight because he was promised the winner would fight John Bones Jones. So for the title, so that's or just a title fight. Maybe it doesn't have to. Maybe Gustafsson wins and then fights Dan Henderson. I don't know, but Cormier to win that fight. So we've got Cormier and Robbie Lawler for those two fights, and then the main event for the title. You've got Renan Barão versus TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw won the Ultimate Fighter a couple of years back and has been putting in some really impressive fights. He fights at the same gym, or trains at the same gym as Uriah Faber, who got beat in his last two fights against Renan Barão for the title. Initially, Renan Barão was him and Uriah Faber fought for the interim championship because Diaz got a knee injury, I'm sure it was an ECL injury, but now he holds the title outright because he got another one and it's no longer the interim title. So that's going to be an interesting fight. And actually, at the end of Uriah Faber's last fight against Renan Barão, he did say, give TJ Dillashaw a shot now, he deserves a shot. And that's what we've got. He's got a shot at Renan Barão. He's got a shot at the guy that hasn't been beat for 10 years. How do you beat the guy that hasn't been beat for 10 years? Everyone can get beat at some point. My opinion is it won't be this time around, and Renan Barão will come through that fight quite easily. But the beauty of the UFC is anything can happen. In my opinion, it makes it better than boxing. And I love boxing, but anything can happen in the UFC, and it's so exciting to watch. These three fights are going to be no different. The full card is going to be no different. But once we get to the business end of these fights, it's going to be epic to watch. I hope Dan Henderson does it, but my head does say Cormier. So we've chose three picks for that. Tell me what you think. Put in the comments. Tell me if it was a douche or a maneuver or a no feck all. Tell me. Anyway, the next event, which we'll be watching just before the UFC 170 over here in Scotland, will be the Champions League final. Champions League final will take place, and it'll be between Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid, and it's the first time in history of the European Cup and the Champions League, which it changed to, that two clubs from the same town will play each other. So it's a derby rolled into a Champions League final. How that is not going to be the most epic final ever, I do not know. Diego Simeone has done a wonderful job there, putting in the work ethic that those guys run through, and he's spent £33 million and sold enough to earn 30 odd million in profits, even though he spent £30 million, and he's sent the guys out on loan that he's bought pretty much. So he hasn't really spent anything at Atletico Madrid, and he's won the league title with them. It would be a great fairy tale for him to go on and win the Champions League final and to win it against Real Madrid. That's a fairy tale. In my opinion, my heart wants that to happen, but in my opinion, it's not going to happen. Ronaldo and Gareth Bale and Benzema are going to be too much for Atletico Madrid. The thing is as well, Atletico Madrid's star striker, Diego Costa, he got injured in the last game of the season against Barcelona to win the league. And at the moment, he is getting horse placebo injections so that he can hopefully repair sooner, basically, and get healthier quicker, help him with the recovery of his injury, and get out there for the final. If he gets out, in my opinion, he's not going to miss the final. You know, if he has to play through the pain, he's going to play through it. But I don't think Atletico Madrid are going to have enough to win that. I think the occasion might be too much for them, and Real Madrid go on and win 3-1. That's what my head says. My heart says a 1-0 win to Atletico Madrid, and Diego Costa scores in the 83rd minute, and Real Madrid spend 7 minutes just battering them down not to get a goal. That's what my heart wants, but my head says a 3-1 win to Real Madrid. It's going to be epic no matter what the score is and who wins. I can't wait for it. And then before that, we've got the most lucrative game in world football, the Championship Playoff Final at Wembley between Derby County and QPR. Steve McLaren, the manager at Derby County, who was a coach at QPR at the start of the season, and he is playing against Harry Redknapp's QPR. Two things I want to say. One, Harry Redknapp deserves to be managing in the Premier League, and two, Harry Redknapp should be taking England to the World Cup just now, not Roy Hodgson. Why someone chooses Roy Hodgson over Harry Redknapp, I will never know. Everyone to their own, but yeah. Okay, so my head and my heart again here. Derby County are going to win 2-1. My head says, my heart says QPR win 4-0 and get put up, and Harry Redknapp's back in the Premier League where he deserves to be. It's going to be an interesting final. I think it's like £200 million you get for winning that final. That's just crazy. So QPR really need it. Derby County not so much, but everyone wants to play in the Premier League. The thing about QPR, I don't know if you guys know this, QPR's wage bill was higher than Atletico Madrid's and Borussia Dortmund's this season, which is just unbelievable to think about. So they really need to get up into the Premier League to get that sort of money so they can fix their finances. But I think it's just going to be a bit too much for QPR, and Derby County are going to go through. Okay, so that's Saturday. That's Saturday set out for you guys. Don't do anything on Saturday. That's your Saturday planned. Championship playoff final, followed by the Champions League final, followed by UFC 173. You know, there's a couple of things that are better than that. None that I can mention on YouTube, but that's pretty epic. On Sunday, you've got the Monaco Grand Prix, the most extravagant, exceptional, history-ridden Grand Prix there is. In my opinion, Lewis Hamilton wins it and goes on to win the F1 Championship, but we can talk more about that week in, week out as they go through the rounds and different countries and racetracks. Spit it out there, you twat. Okay, so Monaco Grand Prix, that's going to be epic. Can't wait for that on Sunday. On Sunday, you've also got the League One playoff final between Leyton Orient and Rotherham. I'm not going to give a stab at who wins it, but what I'm going to tell you is that's going to be epic for those guys getting to play at Wembley. I would love to play. I'm a Scotsman. God damn it, I would love to play at Wembley. So that is epic. It's going to be awesome to watch. And also on Sunday, you've got the Scottish Premier League playoff final between Hibernian and Hamilton. It's the second leg. Hibernian are already 2-0 up from the first leg, and the second leg is actually at home for Hibs. Terry Butcher will do enough to get them through, which is a shame because I love Hamilton. They just there's about 4 miles from here. Evangeline, my missus, she is actually from Hamilton, so it'd be great to see Hamilton back in the Premier League. I just think it's too much for them. Terry Butcher will help Hibs win that game and then take them on to the top 6 finish next year. And the season after, if he stays there, he'll take them on to the Euro Cup. He knows Scottish football inside out, and he will do a good job for Hibs fans if the board support him. So that's Sunday taken care of. You've got a Grand Prix into playoff finals, and then on Monday, Bank Holiday Monday here in Britain, you've got the second division playoff final, so League 2 playoff final between Fleetwood Town and Burton Albion, which is going to be epic as well for those guys getting to play at Wembley. I'm not going to tell you who's going to win that because I really don't know. But that's this weekend, this bank holiday weekend. That's the sport, and that's not to mention the rugby that's happening this weekend, and that's not to mention that I'm pretty sure on Monday the French Open starts, which is just, we all love the French Open. I'm an Andy Murray fan, obviously. Him being Scottish, me being Scottish. He lives, his hometown's about 9 miles from here. The thing is, he's not great on clay, so it's not one that he's ever probably going to win. He might get to the quarters if he can stay out of the way of some of the big clay, the big tennis players on clay like Ferrer and stuff like that. So if he stays out their way, he might get to the quarters, but it's a bit too much for him, to be honest, the clay court, and we're more excited about getting him back at Wimbledon. Anyway, so that's this weekend's sports. Let's talk about transfers, guys, because there's some epic transfer news just coming out. David Luiz has just been sold to Paris Saint-Germain for £50 million, which is just crazy. Makes him the most expensive defender of all time. Paris Saint-Germain actually just got hit with the same sanctions that Man City got hit with, where they got their wage bill frozen, so their wages aren't allowed to go above what they were last season. They're only allowed to register 21 players instead of the standard 25 for the Champions League, and they got a £50 million fine for their financial fair play. This is the new rules that UEFA have installed so that teams don't spend too much money and get themselves into a lot of debt and go into administration and things like that. So you can only make like a £4 million loss if you're a big club. I think it's like a 5% loss of your total turnover, which Man City went above and beyond last season, but because they're owned by a Dubai prince or some crap like that, then it doesn't really matter to them. So Paris Saint-Germain, £50 million. David Luiz going to Paris Saint-Germain. He was never a Jose Mourinho player. Didn't trust him. He was a bit too extravagant and wanted to bring the ball out of defence, which, Jose Mourinho is all about. Guys, the four defenders are four defenders. Maybe he'll allow every now and again his right and left back to overlap, but those centre halves, you are there for one reason and one reason only: to defend the goal. You guys are the bus that we're putting up in front of those goals. So he didn't like David Luiz for that reason. So I'm not surprised to see him go. And £50 million is probably £50 million out of the transfer kitty for Chelsea next season, which is it's going to be epic to see how they spend that. Big changes in world football just now. We've got the World Cup coming up. I cannot wait for this channel to take off. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to be hitting you out with some opinions. Maybe you agree with them, maybe you disagree, but it's really important that you tell me what you think. Put in the comments. Tell me if I'm a douche. Tell me if I know nothing. I'm uneducated. I'm gay or whatever. Just tell me something. Let's have a back and forth argument, debate, whatever you want to call it. Let's talk about sports because that's what I love. If you love it, I love it. Let's talk about it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the first video that I'm going to throw up on my channel. Hopefully the audio is good because I've done this like 7 times now and I don't want to do it again. Thanks for tuning in. I've been there from ESN, which is very close to a very famous sports network, but I'm better, and I'm blue and white, not that other colour. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, keep watching, playing, and loving sports, and have a good one.